How's it going? Today we're going to look at this Chapman Ml2 and do a little bit of a demo and a review. I got this about, I'd say, 2 or 3 months ago, probably closer to 3 months, maybe even more, but I've been playing it a lot, trying to get a feel for it, so I can make a good objective review here. So I'll give you the rundown on the construction of the instrument. So we have a maple neck with a scarf joint. They put a volute where the neck starts to bend, which is great for some extra support. A set-in neck joint into a mahogany body, and with the natural binding where they scrape away some of the paint or they mask it off to get the natural color of the body to show through, which is quite classy on this price range of an instrument. You have the 2 Chapman humbuckers, and you have the volume for the neck and then volume for the bridge, and then a shared tone knob with a coil split, and then a 3-way switch, 2 pneumatic style bridge with the tailpiece, graphite nut that is cut really well. I'm impressed. It stays in tune really well. The nut slots are cut correctly. I don't get any pinging on the D and the G string. Very nice job on the headstock, I think. I've seen some very uninteresting headstocks, or I don't know if uninteresting is the right word, but I've seen Epiphone headstocks and I dislike them. So for a Gibson style guitar, I think it's obviously that's what they're chasing, but I think they picked a good design for this. Of course, they did come out with some new Epiphones just recently in NAMM, where they changed the headstock to, I think, the Wildcat styled Epiphone headstock. So I'll put that up on screen to justify my rant here, but those look way cleaner. Like 10 times better. I just always thought that the Epiphone headstock looked totally goofy. Back to the review here. It's got a ebony fretboard with 24 frets. They've done an excellent job of giving you all the access you need. This neck joint's really nice and smooth. Plenty of cutaway to get up here. I mean, I can get, all the way to the neck pick up here if there were more frets. So they did a good job there. Kind of jumbo-y frets. They're not medium frets. They're pretty tall, pretty wide. They feel good for bends and general playability. I think that was a wise decision. I guess it kind of goes together with the 24 fret sort of thing. But I approve. The strap locks are the Ibanez styled ones. I'll continue to say that until I die, because that's where I saw them first, and everybody said, "Oh, that's a good idea. We need those." So you're seeing those more and more. These are great. They'll keep your strap on there, even if you don't need strap locks. Your strap's not going to fall off of these. This belly cut is really nice. It's comfortable. It's really nice and balanced on a strap. There's no neck dive. I think overall it's very tastefully designed guitar. I'd say, a scarf joint has a bad reputation, but mostly I think that's because, it's a cost-saving thing. But in the 90s, everything where they're trying to save costs, all the cheap guitars had scarf joints. So anything, you're conditioned to think like, it has a scarf joint, it must be bad. Which is not the case at all. They use this on acoustics and classical guitars all the time. That's a traditional way, maybe not in this position, but most of the time to get the tilt back on a classical, they'll use a scarf joint. So there's really nothing wrong with that. But I just want to point that out because, I'm sure people still have that stigma about scarf joints, but if it's done correctly, there's never a problem. I mean, if you look at a lot of the 90s Ibanez's, even the higher end stuff had a scarf joint in the 90s, and that stuff still lasts. I have one right here in front of me. I love it. You know, no issues with that. The neck profile, I'd say, is like a pretty modern C shape. It's pretty thin. I'd say it's not Ibanez thin by any stretch. It feels a little wide, like compared to a Strat or something, but that may just kind of be the result of it being kind of thin, which makes the neck feel a little bit wide. But overall, yeah, it feels good. I think it suits this guitar. No complaints there. It's got some standard tuners if you were really desperate for more accurate tuning, and some convenience. You could put locking tuners on there and you'd be probably pretty happy. But as they are, they do their job well. I can't complain or anything. So yeah, overall, well made. No major issues. So there's a few different ways we can judge this instrument, and I'm going to judge it on 3 categories, which is fit and finish, playability, and sound. So I'd say this guitar, the fit and finish is really quite good. Where they mask off the neck there, between the body and the neck, they did a really good job. It's a clean paint line. There's not really anything, major going on there. Maybe there's like a little bit of a chip right on the binding where under the finish there. And really it's on the natural wood binding. There's not really any major finish issues here. There's a couple of spots where you can tell that the paint didn't fill out. There's like a little air bubble or something, and there's a couple little spots, and I can show close-up pictures of that. One thing that was not very good, so I bought this secondhand, but the post for the bridge, or the tailpiece, was pulling forward in the body, and so I took it all apart and pulled it out, and it looked like at the factory they drilled too big of a hole, so that anchor for the tailpiece just had a lot of room to wiggle, and it had basically managed to pull forward a lot, and you could tell that the back, it wasn't sitting flush and tight in that hole. So actually what I did is took it out, got a dowel and glued a dowel in there, and drilled out a new hole, and then put the anchor back in there. Now it's fine, but it looked like they used like a bit, that was like one size bigger than it should have been for this anchor. And it wasn't that big, that bad of a fix, but that's definitely a QC thing. Had that been apparent like right at the beginning, where the guy who ordered this guitar and owned it before me, if he had noticed that sooner or whatever, I'm sure he could have contacted whoever he bought it from, or Chapman themselves, and get a replacement. But having said that, this I think is one of the first runs. This is the V1. I know construction-wise the V1 and the V2 are the same, but they did change factories, and I think that was a QC thing. The finish is good. I'd give it probably a solid 8 out of 10. There's no glaring problems. I mean, there's a couple of spots where it's like not immaculate, but on a $500 guitar, maybe you don't always expect flawlessness. I mean, if you're paying $1,000, it better be pretty damn flawless. But so then we get to playability, and this thing is really well done as far as the fretwork. No sharp frets or anything, but very nice fret ends. I do like these big frets. I set it up and the action's really good. Just like a little bit of relief, and man, it just like goes to town. The frets feel really good, bends are nice and big and lots of control. I think playability gets a solid, probably like a 9, really. I mean, playability is great. That's I think that's one thing that the Chapman guys do strive for. So yeah, I think they did a really good job on that. And so now to the sound. These Chapman humbuckers are quite nice sounding. I've been enjoying them. They sound good. The neck pickup sounds warm, and the bridge pickup is kind of punchy, which is good. It's not quite my favorite pickup of all time, but it definitely gets the job done. I mean, it's not like some cheap pickup that they threw in there. I think they actually put a lot of thought into these pickups. I'd say with the current pickups in there, for me personally, I'd say they get maybe like a 7.5 for me. And then maybe adding all the versatility, the whole tonal setup, it probably bumps it up to an 8 for me or something like that, because that's sometimes not really always what you see on these guitars in that price range. I'd say if you're looking at this guitar in this category, if you're debating whether or not you should buy it, I think that you won't be disappointed by this instrument. I think that it's sounds great, plays great for the price. Maybe not even for the price, really. I think overall, in general, it's just a good instrument. It's definitely at the very, very top for value for money. I wish that something like this existed when I started playing. I started playing on an Epiphone SG G400, and that with a gig bag from Guitar Center was like around $500. So this comes with a gig bag as well, and I'd say this is leagues ahead of that instrument. Also, this doesn't have neck dive, which is really nice. That SG had neck dive, but that's kind of like, I think you're just in for that treat if you get an SG. But yeah, I wish this would have existed when I started playing. This would have been a really incredible instrument and good value for money, and this would have lasted me well into my years of guitar playing. So now to take another approach to this guitar. The Chapman Ml2 is obviously a single cut, replicating a Les Paul type shape. So the question is, which one of these is better and which one did what right? So here we have a really interesting situation. We have one guitar that's almost exactly half as much as the other guitar. So we have a mahogany body with a maple top, and we have a solid mahogany body. Both of the guitars have a set neck, maple neck, versus a full mahogany neck. And funnily enough, weight-wise, they're pretty similar. I don't know if this is a light Les Paul or a heavy Chapman, but they're quite close. So I'm going to run down the list of things that makes the Chapman better than the Les Paul. It's got a volute, which is a plus, because if you know anything about tilt-back headstock designs, like this Gibson, is that if it falls over on the headstock, it's going to break. You see that all the time. You see repaired headstocks all over Reverb, all over eBay. The 24 jumbo frets, super bonus. I love that. The fret access to those frets is excellent. If you can see on the Gibson here, you have a lot of wood in the way, whereas here it's very cut away and very smooth. And I almost forgot, there's a tummy cut on the Chapman, so it's more comfortable having it up against your body, whereas on the Gibson you just have a corner. And the tonal versatility of the Chapman is better than the Gibson because of the coil tap. So now, what does the Gibson do better than the Chapman? Well, I think that the Gibson sounds better, and that's the main thing. Maybe the quality of the construction might be better on the Gibson, but I think for me personally, the sound is what is striking. I think it's got a much more vintage sound going. I think it sounds smoother. I think it's way bluesier, whereas these pickups are more transparent and clear, and it seemed like they'd be a good starting point for basically more genres, whereas maybe you'd kind of get a bit shoehorned with the Les Paul. And yeah, I just think the Les Paul sounds better, and I mean, you'll have to fight me in the comments, but we'll do a demo with both of these guitars and shoot them out real quick and see which one sounds better to you guys. So yeah, let's get to it. So what I'll do is play back a couple of tracks that I recorded with both of these guitars, and I'll let you guys guess in the comments which one is the Chapman and which one is the Les Paul. Bye.